The access code took approximately 4.3 seconds to crack. Laughably simple, really. I had infiltrated 17 different star systems' defense networks in less time than it took these humans to brew what they called coffee. My designation was Krill, intelligence officer for the Zenthri Collective, and I had just made the biggest mistake of my extremely long life. Too easy, I muttered, my 3 fingers dancing across the holographic interface. The human military database opened like a flower blooming in fast forward. These primitive apes probably still use passwords like password 123. They did not. What they used was far, far worse. The first file I accessed was labeled innocuously enough. Welcome_Earth.exe. Standard diplomatic greeting, I assumed. Perhaps a tourism video? Humans were peculiar about their mudball planet. Always going on about beaches and mountains and other geological nonsense. I clicked it.my computer immediately began making a sound I had never heard before. A grinding, whirring, distinctly unhappy mechanical scream that suggested my hardware was reconsidering its life choices. What in the void? I leaned closer, my eye stalks extending for a better view. The screen flickered. Once. Twice. Then text began scrolling. Fast. Too fast for my translator to keep up properly, but I caught fragments. Congratulations on accessing classified human military files. You have triggered Earth Protocol Alpha. Please stand by for cultural introduction. Cultural introduction? That sounded harmless enough, though my survival instincts, honed over 300 years of espionage work, were screaming at me to disconnect immediately that I should have listened. Instead, I watched as my screen filled with what appeared to be historical records. Humans fighting each other with sticks. Then with metal sticks. Then with metal sticks that exploded. Then with vehicles that exploded. Then with aircraft that dropped bigger explosions. Then with explosions that could vaporize entire cities. Okay, so they are violent, I said, taking notes on my secondary tablet. Standard developing species aggression. Nothing the collective hasn't seen before. The files kept coming. Humans wrestling alligators. Humans jumping out of perfectly functional aircraft for fun. Humans eating capsaicin peppers that registered on the galactic toxicity scale as mild chemical weapons. Humans diving to ocean depths that should have crushed their fragile bodies. Humans climbing mountains in the death zone where oxygen was a luxury item. This must be propaganda, I assured myself, my 3 hearts beginning to beat slightly faster. Exaggeration for intimidation purposes. Then came the medical files that I stared at the screen, convinced the translation software had malfunctioned. According to these records, humans had survived, being struck by lightning, multiple times, same individual, having metal rods pierced completely through their skulls, losing significant percentages of their blood, falling from heights that should have resulted in immediate death, radiation exposure that would kill most species in hours. One human named Roy had been hit by lightning 7 times and complained primarily about his hat collection being ruined. My primary heart skipped a beat. This is fiction, I announced to my empty quarters. It has to be. The computer beeped cheerfully, a sound that now felt distinctly threatening. New files opened. Combat records. Strategy documents. Something labeled Geneva Conventions, which appeared to be a list of rules for warfare that I read through it. Confusion mounting. These were suggestions? Guidelines. Things humans had agreed not to do to each other, which implied they had done these things, which meant they needed rules to stop. My claws trembled slightly on the keyboard. The final document in the sequence loaded. It was titled, Things_humans and concern for everyone, txt that I opened at 47 pages. Single-spaced. With citations that I made it to page 3 before my computer began smoking. Not metaphorically smoking. Actual, physical smoke curled from the cooling vents. The screen flickered between the document and what appeared to be a video of a human strapping rockets to a chair and launching himself across a canyon while his friends cheered and drank beverages. Impossible, I whispered, the computer's temperature gauge redlined. Alarms blared. My quantum processor, designed to handle 17 simultaneous data streams from across the galaxy, was apparently overwhelmed by human content that I slammed my fist on the disconnect button. Nothing happened. The files kept playing. A human fighting a bear. A human eating something called ghost pepper ramen in under 2 minutes. A human base jumping off a building while wearing a suit that made them look like a flying squirrel. A human marathon runner who finished a race with broken bones because I paid the entry fee. My computer was now actively on fire. Small flames licked at the edges of the console. The metal casing began to warp. My translator gave up entirely, just displaying question marks and what I swear was a digital representation of crying. I grabbed the fire suppression system, foam spraying everywhere, but the computer kept displaying files even as it melted. The last thing I saw before the screen went dark was a human child, no more than 6 solar years old, calmly explaining how to negotiate with wasps. Wasps. Those nightmare insects that even the collective had classified as a shoot on sight. The child was befriending them. My computer exploded, not dramatically. Just a sad little pop, a final wheeze of smoke, and then silence. I stood there, covered in fire suppression foam, staring at the molten remains of my console, trying to process what I had just witnessed. Somewhere on that primitive planet, humans were going about their day. Probably doing something insane like skateboarding or eating food so spicy it qualified as self-harm or arguing about whether water was wet. And I had just tried to hack their military files. The emergency meeting of the Zinthari Intelligence Division convened exactly 47 minutes after my computer committed technological suicide. I stood before the High Command Council, still smelling faintly of fire suppression foam and existential dread. Commander Vash, my direct superior, fixed all 6 of his eyes on me with an expression that suggested deep regret about my continued existence. "Explain," he said, his voice flatter than a collapsed star. "Sir, I accessed the human military database as ordered. Standard reconnaissance protocol. The security was, frankly, embarrassing. A child could have bypassed it." I paused, reconsidering. Actually, based on what I learned, a human child probably designed something worse before breakfast. And your computer spontaneously combusted because the files, sir, they were too much. The processor couldn't handle the sheer absurdity of human existence. I believe the technical term is reality overload. Silence filled the chamber. The kind of silence that precedes either laughter or execution, and I genuinely could not predict which. Senior Analyst Thorne leaned forward, her scales rustling with curiosity. "You are telling this council that human data files possess some kind of mimetic hazard? A cognitive weapon?" "No, ma'am. Worse. They are just accurate records of human behavior. My computer tried to calculate the probability of survival for some of their documented activities, and the numbers caused a logical paradox. The cooling system failed trying to process how someone could survive falling from the sky when their parachute did not open, hit the ground, and walk away complaining about a twisted ankle. "That is impossible," Vash stated. "I have the burned remains of my workstation that would disagree, sir. Also, I learned humans have a saying, 'Hold my beer.' It apparently precedes their most inadvisable decisions, which they then film and post for entertainment purposes." Thorne's tail twitched nervously. "What else did you learn before the system failure?" I pulled out my secondary tablet, the one that had survived purely by not being directly connected to the human files. Humans have a recreational activity called parkour, where they jump off buildings. Another called free climbing, where they scale cliffs without safety equipment. They have something called the Darwin Awards, which they give to members of their own species who remove themselves from the gene pool in spectacularly stupid ways. They celebrate this, commanders. They find it funny. "Surely exaggeration," Vash muttered, but his voice lacked conviction. "I thought so too, sir. Until I saw the medical records. Humans have survived, being lost at sea for months, lost in deserts for weeks, lost in frozen tundra for days. They have walked off wounds that would kill 3 of our warriors. They have a documented case of a human female lifting a ground vehicle off her offspring using only muscle contractions and maternal panic. Sir, they run toward danger. On purpose. They have occupations specifically designed around entering burning structures or fighting other humans or handling explosives." The council chamber erupted into nervous chittering. "Silence," Vash commanded. He turned back to me, his eyes narrowing. "You are certain of these findings?" "My dead computer is certain, sir. Before it achieved sentience just to experience the sweet release of death, it verified the data through 17 independent sources. All human sources, I should mention. They document this themselves." Proudly, Junior Officer Klepp, who had been silent until now, raised a tentacle hesitantly. "Sir, if I may, We did receive a response to Krill's intrusion attempt. Every head in the council chamber swiveled toward him. What response? Vash asked slowly. Klep manipulated his interface, projecting a message onto the central display. It was written in perfect Zinthari, which was alarming enough on its own. The message read, "Dear Zinthari Intelligence Division, we noticed you poking around our files. That is adorable. We left the actual good stuff encrypted with mathematics that will make your heads hurt. What you saw was basically our blooper reel. If you would like to discuss peaceful relations, please use the proper diplomatic channels next time instead of hacking us like a teenager trying to access their crush's social media. If you would like to be hostile, please reconsider. We have Australians. Sincerely, Major General Patricia Okonkwo, Earth Defense Coalition. P.S. We know where your fleet is. Nice cloaking technology. Would be a shame if someone disrupted it with a well-placed pulse burst. Just saying." The council chamber descended into chaos. They know our position. They cracked our language in less than an hour. What in the void is an Australian? I cleared my throat. Sir, if I may, I did encounter references to Australia in the files. It is apparently a continent where everything is designed to kill humans, so naturally millions of them chose to live there and thrive. The wildlife includes spiders the size of dinner plates, jellyfish that cause psychological torture before death, octopi that are beautiful and extremely lethal, and birds that attack with knife feet. The humans there are reportedly the descendants of criminals their own society exiled, and they responded by building a successful civilization and developing an accent that makes everything sound friendly even when threatening violence. Vash's scales had gone pale, a color I had never seen them achieve before. This is a nightmare. Yes, sir. And we potentially just poked it with a stick. Thorn pulled up additional data, her claws moving frantically. Looking at historical records, humans went from first powered flight to walking on their own moon in 66 years. They went from basic computers to artificial intelligence in less than a century. They have created and then banned multiple weapons capable of destroying their own planet, because even they thought those were too dangerous. They are simultaneously the most self-destructive and most resilient species we have encountered. Recommendation? Vash asked tiredly. The council looked at each other. Finally, Thorn spoke what everyone was thinking. Do not invade Earth, sir. Under any circumstances. Maybe send a fruit basket. 8 months, actually, but yes. Right. And you have been doing it all sneaky like, observing from a distance, intercepting transmissions, the whole spy game thing. Very professional. Very boring. She leaned forward. How about instead, we just show you. Cultural exchange program. You send some folks down here, we send some folks up there. Everybody learns. Nobody's computer catches fire. Win-win. You want us to visit Earth? My voice came out higher than intended. Voluntarily? Sure. We will keep you away from the Australian continent, if that makes you feel better. Though honestly, Steve is disappointed. He had a whole presentation ready about coastal wildlife. Who is Steve? Marine biologist. Thinks everything in the ocean is adorable, including the things that could absolutely murder him. You would either love him or have a panic attack. Maybe both. I tried to process this. The humans, instead of being angry about our espionage, wanted to invite us for a visit. This was either incredibly naive or the most sophisticated psychological warfare I had ever encountered. I would need to consult with my commanders. Of course. Take your time. Talk it over. We will be here, not doing anything too crazy. Probably. She paused. Okay, that is a lie. We are always doing something crazy. But we will try to minimize property damage until you get back to us. The call ended that I sat there for a long moment, then slowly turned to face the emergency council meeting that had reconvened the moment the human had appeared on screen. Commander Vash looked like he had aged several decades in the past hour. Analysis. Sir, I believe the humans are insane, terrifying, and possibly the friendliest species we have ever encountered. Also, they have someone named Steve who thinks deadly sea creatures are cute, and I am morbidly curious about that. Thorn was already pulling up data. A cultural exchange could provide invaluable intelligence. And if they are genuinely offering peaceful contact, refusing might be seen as hostile. Or, Klep added nervously, we could just leave them alone? Pretend we were never here? Retire to that nice nebula on the edge of the galaxy and take up meditation. We all considered that option. It was tempting. So very tempting. But we were intelligence officers. Curiosity was literally in our job description, even when that curiosity might result in psychological damage and property destruction. Vash sighed, a sound like escaping atmosphere. Draft and acceptance. Krill, you are leading the delegation. Sir, I really think someone more qualified should go. Someone braver. Someone with better life insurance. You started this. You finish it. Besides, Vash's expression was almost sympathetic. If the humans kill you, at least you will have an interesting death story. Apparently, they value those. 3 weeks later, I found myself on a shuttle descending toward Earth, clutching a tablet with 17 different emergency protocols and a will that left my mineral collection to my sister. Below me, the planet rotated peacefully, looking deceptively calm. Somewhere down there, humans were probably doing something inadvisable, filming it, and laughing that I was about to meet them in person. My computer had gotten off easy with the whole exploding thing. As we entered the atmosphere, my communicator chimed with one final message from General Okonkwo. Welcome to Earth, Krill. Try not to die. We have paperwork for that, and it is super annoying. I laughed. I could not help it. It came out as a hissing wheeze that alarmed the pilot, but it was definitely laughter. Humans. Absolutely ridiculous. Completely terrifying. Somehow endearing. The shuttle touched down smoothly, and through the viewport, I saw a group of humans waiting. One of them was holding a sign that read, Krill, our favorite spy. No hard feelings. Another was indeed holding a fruit basket. Apparently, they had found the 27% that would not kill me. The airlock opened. I took a deep breath of recycled air, checked that my translator was working, and stepped forward to meet the most dangerous, most welcoming species in the known galaxy. This was either going to be the best decision of my life or the last one. Knowing humans, it would probably be both. So what did you think? Did this story surprise you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this sci-fi story, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe for more mind-blowing science fiction stories every week. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story. Rocket.